I remember very clearly making certain decisions in my life that I was like, God, I don't want to do this. I'm telling you, I don't want to do this, but I will because I know your way is better than mine. And in the journey, as I take the steps, you'll show up. And he did. He showed up and showed me why this way was better than the way that I wanted. Every time I was like, God, I don't want to do this. But he showed up. I did it his way. And I was like, I do. And I think that part of it is like, we think our heart has to be in it before we can obey.
That's so good.
We think our heart has to be ready. And can I tell you, your heart is not going to be ready.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Valley of the Heroic podcast. Today, we are going to have a wonderful conversation that I'm super excited about. I have a friend of mine who I haven't seen in a really, really long time. What, +5+ years, probably more than that.
Yeah.
But it's a pleasure to be here with my friend Lauren. Now, Lauren is a dear friend from my former church, Fuente de Salvación, a special place in my heart. And she's here today. I'm so excited to hear what we're going to talk about. And I'll pass it on to her for her to introduce herself, tell you a little bit about who she is, what she does, what she cares about in this world, and who's her family.
Yeah, man. So, hey, everybody. So excited to be here. Thank you so much. Such an honor and a privilege, man, to be able to share with you and see what you've done. I've been watching your podcast, like so dope, your step of faith and your family. So congrats to you guys.
Thank you.
For sure. So as he mentioned, my name is Lauren. I am a wife, a mother of 2 boys. That is the most important thing, right? I'm a believer in Jesus. I am an author. God has allowed me to steward different business opportunities and, all the things. A servant of the Lord, just all the things.
Servant of the Lord, all the things. Tell us a little bit about the books you've written.
So Natureful, 21-day devotional on God's perspective on health and wellness. So that has been, that was birthed out of my own journey. First of all, going to school, I went to school for public health. I did my master's in public health. Unwriting, Hispanic health tendencies of pollo, arroz, habichuela todos los días. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, los 3 golpes en la mañana, like all this, just our parents didn't know, and our culture. And that has its place. It's not like we shouldn't be eating these things. But just an understanding biblically of God, wanting us to steward our bodies, how our body, is a temple for the Lord, how the way rest plays a role in our health, and how even eating well and exercising and all that kind of stuff is a form of worship to God. I'm thanking God for this body that he's giving me. I'm stewarding it well. I'm not putting garbage and junk in it. At least not all the time.
Right. Having a good balance.
Moderation and just movement is so healthy, so good for you. And you feel good after. But really just having a perspective from the Bible that speaks to us on that, because I feel like the word says that we're renewed, we're transformed by the renewing of our mind. And so sometimes we know I should eat better, or I should be working out, or I should whatever. But until your mind is renewed on that topic,
wow, I love that.
You know what I mean? It doesn't change. Like when your perspective, and you realize that this is a God thing. This isn't just like, I want to look better. I want to fit into a smaller size. It has nothing to do with none of that.
It's the voice for me.
Really, it's it has nothing to do with none of that. It's really about, for me, it's about feeling good. But really just that stewardship piece and honoring God. So I feel like I have to shout out my wonderful husband right now, because he's
killing it, by the way.
He is just destroying the game right now. And it came from that. So he is undoing over 30 years of really just destructive health habits.
Yeah, that's where I am right now. Was he posting pictures along the way?
So he's posting a little bit.
Because I only saw one picture and I was like, whoa. What? But I know that there's a strong possibility that I missed pictures along the way, but for me it felt like the picture of how he was before, right?
Yeah.
He was a lot bigger, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I see his picture and my man is like, yeah, what's up? I'm Baki. I'm about this life. And I was like, yo.
And
like,
if you hear
that's
him,
amazing.
he's not done yet. So so I have to shout him out. He lost, I want to say now, more than, if it's not 240, it's 250 pounds over the last, I want to say it's 20 or 22 months. So it's a long journey.
Yeah,
this isn't like
it
an
takes
overnight success thing. You know what I mean? And he has put in the work.
Yeah.
You know, the work. But to get like connected, it really started with, so I feel like I'm telling his story. You got to have him on the podcast, man.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm telling his story a little bit. So I
might call him myself, and it's not even going to be a podcast. It's going to be a conversation. Like, yo, my man, like, give me all the life hacks. Yeah.
But he says it himself. And he's done this before. There was other seasons of his life where he lost like 70 pounds and like 100 pounds. Like leading up to our wedding, he lost all this weight. So one of his goals, and he'll tell his story, hopefully in Jesus' name, he'll be on the podcast at some point and share his own story. Because I don't want to give his whole story, you know,
right. Just give the preview so everybody's looking for it.
He was trying to just be able to weigh himself on the scale. He could not weigh himself. So he didn't know how big he was.
Wow.
So his goal in the first, I guess, half of his journey, if you will, was just to be able to weigh himself on the scale and see where he was at.
Right.
And I think right after that, the goal was just to reach 400.
Wow.
Just to reach 400. So we're talking about, 450 plus.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But it started this last, journey, I guess, or piece of the journey of losing all this weight started with renewing his mind around his health.
I feel like that's kind of the beginning stage of where I'm at, of it being a mind thing.
Yeah.
Because that's something that God has been speaking to me personally, this starting like February, give or take, about my mind. And that affects all different areas. Right. So I love how you said that the devotional connects the renewing of your mind with living healthy, because that kind of just, that affects that too for me. That was my my takeaway from what you said, and I love that because we don't realize just how much our mind affects us as human beings, right? We think our mind is just our mind, but our mind affects our decisions. It affects our bodies. We're learning right now. It affects how we approach our days, how we work as human beings, the different decisions that we make for our purpose and all those things. So, wow, like that's amazing. I love that. You said Natureful, right?
Natureful, God's perspective on health and wellness, 21
Awesome.
days. And my name on there is Lauren Ramos because I wasn't married, right? When I released that book. So, but I think one thing for me, so a lot of people don't know this. I was very big as a child. So that affected me a lot. I don't want to say full on bullying, but yeah, definitely there were moments and certain people that would I guess bully you or just make you feel a type of way. And as a female, it's like, boys don't like me or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm young. Easy. I'm like 10, 11, 12. You know what I mean? I began to, and I remember praying like, God, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want, I don't, and I'm young. I'm like 10 years old, 11 years old. I'm like, God, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to live this way. I remember looking at myself in the mirror and it was like, if I just cut over here and just cut over here. And it was like, you know what I mean? It's just these thoughts as a young woman, a young girl, and just feeling very, and I think it affected my confidence, like just feeling very small, very unseen, and again, I think just like the outside, like certain, like I remember this one boy I liked, started mocking me for my weight, and it was like a big thing because I liked him, like he was like my crush at the time. So it hurt even more, yeah. And but I think one of the first things, and God responded. Man, prayer works. Prayer works because I remember calling out to God, like, God, help me with this. Like, I don't want to feel this way. And around 11, 12, I began to lose the weight. Part of it was probably puberty.
Yeah.
But the other part of it, I'm going to credit the Lord, because it started to happen on its own before I had any knowledge about anything. And because I started to see it, then I got like into it. It was like, oh, well, I want this to keep on happening. So I remember like coming into high school, I would be like in the weight room at high school and all these things. And that was the start of like my journey. And then I went to college and I went for public health. Right.
Wow.
So, but I think just undoing like some cultural things, like I had to learn, este cuerpo no es un basurero. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like when you're young and it's like, you can't leave un granito de arroz on your plate. You can't like leave any of your food. That is
such a bad rule too.
It's
like,
so bad. And I remember like hearing like, oh, you know, the kids in Africa, you know, they don't have any food, you know. And I remember even thinking like, well, how does me finishing my plate help them over there? Like, maybe I should send the rest of my plate over there.
Because they're trying to teach us gratitude too. But then at the same time, it's like to this day, if I'm full, I feel this need that I have to finish what's on my plate, even though I don't want anymore. And I feel this intense feeling of shame when you leave something on your plate and you're like scraping it into the garbage and you're like, I'm the worst person in the world, because we don't understand that the things that we teach our children, if you keep on repeating it, it's going to stay ingrained in them, especially if there's an attachment of shame inside of that,
which we need to use in the positive way and understand in the negative way, right? Like if you teach the children the way of the Lord, it will stay with them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But if you teach them that their body is a garbage can, you know what I mean? They will keep that too.
Yeah.
You know? And so I needed to learn like this body, like the same way, like, oh, scraping the rest of it into the trash. Like my body is not the trash. Like I can put that in the actual trash. Like if I'm done, I don't need to keep going. You know what I mean? And that this is something my husband and I talk about a lot, where it's like that feeling of like the itis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
not the goal.
I hate
You know
that
what
feeling.
I mean?
Yeah.
That feeling used to be like, yo, if you got there, you good. Like you had a good meal, you enjoyed yourself. Like, but no, that's like not a good thing.
No,
like,
it's terrible. Yeah.
That's not good for your body. It's not good for your health. It's definitely not the goal.
Your body's telling you like, yo, you went too far.
Your body, and my husband puts it this way, your body had to knock you out, like to be able to process everything that you just put into it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's that heavy that your body can no longer do the other things of living that it needs to do. So it had to put you to sleep almost, or get you to sit down or whatever, to be able to process all that you have put into it.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that food really is fuel and not for fun. Right? Which again, I mean, moderation, you know what I mean? Have your cake and eat it too kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. I have a sweet tooth. Like that's me all the way. Like fruit is a big part of my diet. And I'm not advocating like, you know, anything extreme, but definitely just like these cultural things of like excess and like eating to the point that you're like knocked out, like that begins to hurt us in the long run. And we don't realize it until we turn around and we're like 50 pounds heavier. Like we don't realize it when we're 10 pounds heavier. We realize it when we're like 50 and 70 and like even 100 pounds heavier. And we look at pictures of ourselves like, I used to look like that. And this is what I look like now. Like you don't see it in the process. You see it in the hindsight.
Because it's gradual. Yeah. And so you're just like, oh, eventually I'll get to it. Eventually I'll get to it. And you never get to it.
And it becomes normal. Like the feeling of that, you know, reaching itis, that itis feeling, or like not having energy, or like being winded when you get to the top of the stairs. Like that's just normal. Like that is normal behavior. Like, oh, getting out the car is like such a hassle, or not fitting in an airline seat. You know what I mean? It's just normal. Until we're like, I remember telling my husband, like, as you're losing all this weight, there are things that are going to begin to happen that you're going to realize, like, I didn't know that this was not normal. Like to fit in, my husband could not fit in an airline seat. We had to fly first class because he just didn't fit. It was like, and he's tall, so it's like his legs too. Like, you know what I mean? It's not just the width, it's like
how tall is he? Like 6'3"?
He's 2'3", something like that. So like both ways, like he just could
Uh-huh.
not
Yeah,
fit in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
NYC. So we had to fly first class, like, and that's money, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
But which, hey, I wasn't complaining about, but you know, hey, first class. Once you fly first class, you know.
Uh-huh.
But the idea that you can't fit in another seat if you wanted to or needed to,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like you're
Right.
gonna, and I told him like you're gonna begin to see things and experience things that like small wins, right? Like when you bend down to put on your shoes, it's not, you're not winded anymore just doing
Right.
that, you know, or like, oh, I can see my feet, you know what I mean? Kind of thing, like these small things that are small wins, but it's your life is literally changing.
Yeah.
Your day to day, you know, being able to walk up the stairs and not be winded or all these things, it begins to change, and that's your quality of life. It affects your sleep.
My goodness, that's so good.
If
Yeah,
you're
it's
talking about
quality of life.
sleep apnea, like your quality of life, like you get deeper, better, restful sleep. All these kinds of like small things, but it's your quality of life that drastically changes. So it's not just the sizes of clothes, it's your life.
I think what's so interesting about that too is the fact that God just wants us to be well.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me personally, and maybe for some of the people listening as well, it's like there's different things that God is dealing with all of us at different times of our life.
Right.
And usually he's gonna pick a certain number of things. He's not gonna be like, okay, I need you to fix your whole life right now. You got this, and we're gonna work on all of it. But for me, this is definitely one of them. And
Okay, Lord, I'm here for a reason.
yeah, no, because I mean it's been going on for a while. So
Yeah,
I'm listening, I'm taking it all in. And for me, what I really just appreciate, both from what you're saying and also what God does, is that he gives us opportunities, right? He gives us information. It's out there. We have both the opportunity and what we need to be able to be successful in the area that he wants us to be successful in. And so if God is speaking to you about your weight, right? Because it's not really about the weight. It's about, again, wellness, being able to have a good quality of life, have energy. That's, for me, those are the biggest things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be tired all the time.
Right.
I don't want to be upset because I don't have energy and it's 10 o'clock in the morning and I've only been up a few hours. You know what I'm saying? You know, nobody wants to feel that way, but we also have to be able to take the steps necessary to be able to step into that thing, step into that path that God is putting before you. It's like you have to take the steps for it. He's going to teach you. He's going to guide you. We have to see the path that God is putting before us. And, we have to take the steps that's necessary to go on that path. Like, we can't just see the path and be like, all right, God, I see it, and then not take the steps. And I feel like that applies for so many different things. And it's just beautiful to see how God deals with us, how in every season he's literally trying to enrich our lives, but we're not always taking the blessings.
Yeah.
Right? Because he cares for us so much. He's like, if you don't deal with this thing, it's going to keep you back.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. It's like, if I don't deal with this thing, it's going to keep me back. And you've known me. How old are you?
33.
I do the same thing now. So I'm 2 years older. So you know me since I was like 13, 12.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, you know, when I first came to church, I was already starting to kind of lose a lot of the weight, but I grew up always heavy set. Right. And then for most of my teen years, I was skinny, and then I gained a lot of weight, and it's been fluctuating ever since. Right. And so it's frustrating when you've been able to live both lives. Like, you've been big and you also have lost 100 pounds before. Right. And then you hurt yourself and gain all the weight back. But you could have done things, even though the big thing for me was like, I kept telling myself, oh, I hurt my knee. And I would get really down about that. And I'd be like, I hurt my knee, and I gained all the way back. It's such a common
thing for men. I mean, I don't know if you played sports, but especially if you play sports.
I heard it playing basketball.
My husband got a knee injury playing football.
Right. And I'm like, but for a long time, all I kept talking about was my knee injury.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing anything for my my diet. When I did I was only hurt technically hurt for 4 months in bed rest, and I gained a lot of the weight back, right? But right after that, I didn't start right back up again. I was still just wallowing in that sadness, and then before you know it, mad years passed.
Right.
And if we don't, there's this quote that I saw the other day from Erwin McManus. He said, actually, I wrote it down somewhere. Let me just share it with you real quick.
Yeah, please.
Because it's really good. Make the change before pain makes you make the change. Make the change before pain makes you.
The Bible says that another way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like we have to. Whether for me it's the weight loss journey, right? But for everybody, we all have something, and we internalize that many times as like frustration when really it's just God trying to lead you to blessing. Really, he's trying to lead you to fruitfulness in your life. I'm sure your husband is so much happier now. And it's not because of the weight, but it's the quality of life. For sure. Right? His life has changed because of the decisions he has made, right?
Right.
And that opens up so many different opportunities for him. Some of them small, some of them big.
And it's so much, I think you're so right. It's so much more than that, because the vision that God has put in your heart for your life, the vision that he has for you, the goals, the purposes, that determines everything in your life. Everything. The vision that God has for you, for your business, the vision that you have for the ability to be present in your children's lives. Like, I have to chase after a toddler.
Yeah.
I need energy for that.
Yeah.
You know, all that determines everything. It determines what you put in your body. It determines, for me, literally, I'm nursing my son, so it determines what I have to wear. Like, I put on clothes by how quickly I can get access, you know? So
the other day, Joanna wore a really nice dress, and I was like, oh my God, you look, and then she's like, I can't wear this. What am I doing?
You can't open it. And listen, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And so that, you know, and that's a small part of it. And everything is determined by your vision in your life. And so I think it's two pieces. Number one, it's understanding your assignment for your life, for where you are in that season, but also what God has for you in your life. But then also Kairos, man, there's grace for different things in different times of your life. Like you said, you can't do everything at the same time, right? You can't build a business, have a newborn, also be, you know, speaking in conferences all around the world, and also be like, there's just only so much that as a human you could do at the same time, right? Not that you can't reach all the potential and all the things, but maybe not all at the same time, right? I simply can't be in more than one place at one time.
Right.
And so for me, it was about, number one, the grace to understand God's purpose and God's help, man. When I prayed, the Lord heard me. Prayer works. God, it matters to God, the little things as well as the big things of your life, how I felt, not the weight. He didn't care about what numbers on the scale. He cared about how I felt, because it was hurting me. It was hurting my heart, what was happening to me and how I felt as a result of that extra weight on me. And so that mattered to God, and he helped me. He came, the word says he came and he helped me. He came and he helped me. He responded to my prayer. And so that grace that comes from the Lord for all things, right? But also understanding assignment. Like, I've understood very clearly right now where I am and what he wants for me, whether that's in business, that's with my kids, that's with my husband. You need to understand assignment. So like when you're in school and like, you know, middle school, and you get like that worksheet and it's like at the top is the instructions, and it's like, to finish, you know, to do this worksheet, go to your textbook and go to page whatever to be able to do this worksheet. And also there's a backside, so don't forget the backside, right? So the instructions at the top, so pivotal to understand that assignment. When you understand the purpose and the assignment that's on your life in this season, in every season, he gives you instruction on how to get there, how to make it. That's in scripture, and he speaks to you. I told you before we started going live off camera, when you reached out, I knew The Lord told me you were going to reach out. Not that you were going to reach out, but told me what this season was going to be, and that there was going to be opportunities to share, opportunities to testify, opportunities to witness, which he had put on the back burner for me as a blessing. Because you know me, you know my life has largely been ministry, largely been speaking out, largely been worshiping and you know, other opportunities to speak. And that was on pause.
Your whole life was ministry.
Yeah.
Like how long you were, since you were a kid?
Yeah. God met me at an early age. God met me at a very early age. And I've been in one way or another in worship since I was 6 years old. And so.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's influenced, you know, number one, I feel like in a way it also kept me reliant on the Lord. I'm so grateful. Yeah. I'm so grateful for Fuente and the leadership and the training, man, that leadership training helped me in the business world. Oh, yeah. You know, helped me. 100%. It's so beautiful. The community, like, it's just, it has spoken and led my life in such a way. So grateful.
I'm pretty sure ministry saved my life. I'm pretty sure it did. It saved my faith. It saved my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, God knew. He was like, oh, let's get this kid when he's 10 and
put him
in ministry. Put him in ministry at 11, which doesn't make no sense. For you to be starting ministry at 6 and for me to be starting ministry at 11.
Well, I wasn't leading at 6, but
no, but you're still serving.
Yeah.
You're still serving.
Yep.
It's like, first of all, our leaders were wilding a little bit. But mad love to them. But also at the same time, it's like God knew what he was doing. Yeah. You know, who knows what were the different reasons for your assignment, like you were saying, in the future. But even in those times, why you needed God to meet you at those times. Yeah. And for me, I just knew that I needed it. You know, even though I went through a whole bunch of just issues growing up, my ministry was the biggest way I connected with God until I finally forged my own relationship with him. Because I didn't really know how to do that.
Right.
But doing ministry and feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit, feeling his gift operating through me, literally feeling like I'm working with him, because I didn't have a prayer life as a kid and I wasn't, you know, kind of shown how to do that. But experiencing him there made me more reliant on him in my life, made me know that he was actually there. So it made it harder to leave him.
I think for me, ministry, yes, like having that responsibility kept me close when I may have wanted to go astray a little bit. It was like the responsibility of like, oh, but don't forget you got a cell group. Like, oh, but don't forget, you know, such and such is happening. Like, I feel like it kept me from going astray. In certain ways, having that responsibility, it's just like when you have responsibility at work, it gives you onus. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but that would not have mattered if it had not been for the fact that he encountered me personally at an early age. And so it was grounded in, I was happy to serve because the love was there. Yeah. You can't, in the scripture in Psalms that says, oh man, I can't remember the words exactly right now, but it talks about, you know, loving the Lord your God and serving him. And so the love has to come first before the serving. When that love is not there, you're serving out of this empty place, this broken place, this human place that we are not relying on God. And so he commands it in such a way that you need to serve out of a place of loving him, out of a place of knowing him. We talked about losing weight. You need to lose weight out of a place of loving the body that God gave you, not because you hate it so much that you want to lose it.
Because you're still going to hate it later, even if you lose the weight.
You're still going to hate it. The issues are unresolved. Right. And so when we serve out of a place of love, like God spoke to me, encountered me at an early age, and that developed the prophetic in my life at an early age. And that informed my serving, my ministry, the way that I treat my husband, the way that I want to raise my sons. That relationship, I could cry right now talking about it, that has led everything in my life. There is a book that I think is also a Bible study by Mark Batterson, called Chasing the Wild Goose. And I love it because so it just the title alone, right? It goes off of the premise. So the word for Holy Spirit in, I want to say it's Celtic, translates back to the wild goose. And I love it because that has been my experience in my life. Like following the Holy Spirit, you cannot get a rein on that guy. Like, you know, today is here and then tomorrow is there. And then you just, but everything works out for the good, right? And so just being led by him is just kind of like, okay, Lord, you know.
Yeah.
And it has been a journey, both professionally, ministry wise, and even, you know, meeting my husband and getting married, like every aspect. Being led by God, by the Holy Spirit, is a wild ride for sure.
100%. I want to jump back into the assignment thing because I just feel like that's so good, you know, what you were saying, and I 100% agree, because there was something you said about assignment, and even what you were just saying right now about God leading us. He's so faithful to guide us into the purpose that he has for us. And it becomes a matter of us being obedient. It becomes a matter of us being willing to be led by the Holy Spirit, right?
Oh, man.
And being willing to take the steps that he sets before us, and being willing to sometimes feel like you're completely blind.
Oh,
and you have no idea where you're going, but you're like, you know what, God, I trust you. And I think the reason why a lot of people find that so difficult to do is because they don't know what their assignment is. They're struggling to understand, why am I here? What purpose do I serve? In fact, how many people have you met who either have no idea, they don't even have purpose on their radar, right? They're just kind of, you know, going through the motions, living day to day. It's like I said, it's not even on their radar. They almost don't care, right? And then there's other people who they almost invest all of their energy into their purposelessness rather than their purpose. They've invested so much energy into the fact that they serve no purpose. They're like always sad, maybe, or they're woe is me, very strong Eeyore energy, right?
Yeah.
And there's people that have had, right? There's people that have had very hard lives, right? So I don't want to discount that. You know, a lot of my life has been very difficult. There's a lot of people who are very close to me who have had very difficult lives, right? But we also need to understand the fact that God can redeem anything. And so it becomes a matter of understanding what God's truth is.
Right.
And if God says he has all authority in heaven and earth, he has a purpose for our lives, that he's a good God.
For sure.
And he could carry anything to fruition that is of his will. If those things are true, it doesn't matter how broken, messed up, lost, just completely broken and tattered to pieces we are.
Yep.
Because he says he has a purpose. He has all authority on heaven and on earth. And he cares for us, and he's good.
And you're never too far. You're never too broken. You've never been through too much that he can't reach you, that he can't touch you, that he can't change it in a moment. This woman was bleeding for 12 solid years. Do you understand? I can't do that for 12 hours. You understand what the word talks about, that you can endure, is in Proverbs. It's talking about you can endure almost anything except for a broken spirit. You can endure in your body. You can endure in your life. But when your spirit is broken, no man can overcome that, right? Outside of the Lord. And the Lord can meet you in your brokenness in your spirit any day, anytime. He is waiting on you. He is waiting for you. And we don't need anything other than, the word says, a contrite heart. Like, I'm ready, Lord. I give up. I've tried everything else. I tried to do it on my own. I went here and there and everywhere, but Lord, I surrender. Surrender, living a life surrendered, having a heart surrendered. We say, Lord, what's my purpose? What's my destiny? What am I supposed to do? All you need to do right now is surrender.
Mm-hmm.
He will take it from there.
Yes.
You don't need to figure out rocket science, my destiny, my purpose. He'll reveal all that in due time and all these things. All he wants is your heart right here, right now. And I don't care what nobody did to you. Mm-hmm. I don't care the church hurt. Mm-hmm. None of that can take you out of where God can still reach you. And not that those things aren't real.
Right.
Trauma is invalid and legit. But God can reach past all of that hurt and pain. And Isaiah talks about, he pulled me up out of the slimy pit. Man, he can reach you and pull you up and make you, the word says, a new creature.
Yeah.
He doesn't just put a Band-Aid on what was and give you enough to get by and pretend and put on a mask like, oh, yeah, all that stuff, I'm over that and that didn't matter. Mm-hmm. No. He says, I pull you up and I make you a new creature. You can look back at what happened and say, I remember it, but it's almost like that is not here with me anymore. And I can testify about it. And I can even talk about the sin, the shame, the hurt, the pain, because it's so far from me at this point. I can testify about what he's done, but you have to come to that crossroads of surrender, of vulnerability, and encounter, man. He is ready and willing to meet you there and pull you out. And all that about assignment and purpose and destiny, I can talk about that all day, but if you have not surrendered your heart to the Lord and allowed him to do that work, man, nothing else matters. Mm-hmm. And he encountered me at an early age and started speaking to me at an early age. And that informed the rest of my life. I remember I could speak to 3 at least occasions clearly where I was like, I could see like, this is Lauren's way and I want to go this way. And this is what I want to do. And this is God's way. And this is what he's leading me to do. And so, hey, it's up to you. The word talks about there's the road of life and death before you. And it so lovingly, he says, choose life. Choose life. We choose. And even in a moment of trauma, you can choose the resentment and the bitterness and letting that inform your future steps. And I can choose to hide and blame other people. Yeah, I left the church and, nobody called me and nobody reached out to me. Or, like you said, like that injury, that, well, I'm too injured to, focus on my diet, right? Like, cause I'm related, right? Cause that's related.
Right. And no, for me, it gave me an excuse. Mm-hmm. It was like, I'm so sad about this injury, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to eat even worse.
I can live in that place, which is really flesh. And we don't want to admit it, but it is. It's flesh.
It is.
Right? It's flesh. And I can live in that place and hang out in that place and do what I want to do, because we don't want to call it what it is. It's flesh. Or his way. And I remember very clearly making certain decisions in my life that I was like, God, I don't want to do this. I'm telling you, I don't want to do this, but I will, because I know your way is better than mine. And in the journey, as I take the steps, you'll show up. And he did. He showed up and showed me why this way was better than the way that I wanted. Every time I was like, God, I don't want to do this. But he showed up. I did it his way. And I was like, I do. And I think that part of it is like, we think our heart has to be in it before we can obey.
That's so good.
We think our heart has to be ready. And can I tell you, your heart is not going to be ready like 99.9% of the time. The word says your heart is deceitful above all things. Follow your heart is the worst advice we could ever listen to or even lean in that direction. Like, do not lean on your own understanding and definitely not on your heart, because it will lie to you every time.
Hey. Boop, 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 boop. I'm just trying to see if you're paying attention. All right. All jokes aside, I just want to take a second to tell you that you are an amazing person for one, being here and listening to this episode, because you are taking steps to grow in your faith and just overall become a better person in this world. If you are here, I already know that you are a hero to somebody and you want to be able to grow and be the best person that you could possibly be. And so the reason I'm interrupting you really quick for this episode is to tell you about our Patreon page. Patreon is a separate platform where I can upload additional content for you to consume. So why would you want to join? First of all, it gives you an opportunity to bless us. All of this work is done completely and totally for free. The Patreon page gives you an opportunity to give towards us and to support this ministry and everywhere that we are taking it. Secondly, you also get opportunities to see behind the scenes content, extra content, exclusive content, Q&A sessions, community chats, and overall just that extra sauce for you to be able to become the hero that God is calling you to be. So if you've been blessed by Valley of the Roic in any way, and you just want to get more involved, or you want to bless us so that we can be able to continue to do this work, Patreon is the place to go. So take a look at the Patreon page and see if there is something that really works for you to support us on a monthly basis. Before I let you guys get back to the episode, I just want to tell you one more thing. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and the like button if you can, to make sure that this episode gets to more people. God bless you guys. So here's the really huge key for anybody listening, especially for people who you're in a tough season where you feel like God is calling you to do something and you don't like it.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of times when God is calling us to take a leap of faith, we expect that leap to be a short leap.
Oh, no.
God's like, oh, I want you to move to California to start a new business in this thing that I'm calling you to do.
Or leave your job and make videos.
Or leave your job and go make YouTube videos. Funny one, right? And so we think, and you know what? That's a perfect example, because you know what I thought was going to happen? I thought in 3 months my YouTube channel was going to blow up.
Right.
And here we are. It's going to be 3 years in a few weeks.
Wow. But you've remained obedient and
consistent.
I've
remained obedient.
Yeah.
And God has maintained us up until this point. And the amount of surgery this man upstairs has done on me, where in these last 3 years, I have changed a lifetime's worth.
Wow.
I've changed more than some people change in their lifetime. You could like literally DM Joanna right after this and ask her if it's true, because she's going to be like, it's true.
Yeah.
I have changed
I believe you.
so much, and there is no price you could place on that.
Yeah.
No price you could place on that. And so we think that jump is going to be easy because we're like, oh, God told me to do it, so he's going to bless me. And yes, he's going to bless you. He's going to bless your obedience. But let me tell you, along the way, it's going to get hard. You're going to be the one that receives a dream in your youth that all your brothers will bow down to you. But then you're going to get sold into slavery. Yeah. Then you're going to end up in prison. Then you're going to live a hard life. And one day, one day, it'll come to fruit. Yeah. God is going to tell you that you're going to be king over the nation that he loves. And then the current king is going to oppress you. Yeah. He's going to try to kill you. He's going to throw his spear at you. You're going to be best friends with his son, but his dad is going to hate you.
So you're going to
have to flee. Then you're going to marry his daughter.
Your father-in-law is going to want to kill you.
We think that we're better than biblical characters.
Oh, hello. Like our life should be a lot easier than theirs, you know?
And so I've seen so many people forfeit God's call over their life because they said it was too hard to step out in faith.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's hard because faith actually takes something.
Yeah.
Because if it's a small leap and he made it easy for you to make that leap, you're going to think it was you, fam.
Yeah. I go back to the heart piece because I think there's a part of us that's like, well, if my heart's not, because remember, right? We are soul, spirit, and body. We are a tripart person. beings. And the mind abides in the soul. The heart abides in the soul. But God is operating and moving and leading in the spirit. And the word talks about feed your spirit. And automatically we're feeding one thing or the other.
Yep.
We're either feeding our flesh and our soul, or we're feeding our spirit. And so because we can see it and feel it, we are more prone to like, well, if I feel like doing it, if I feel like praying, right? We know this one very well, right? If I feel like waking up in the morning and praying, or like with the exercise, if I feel like eating well, or feel like going to the gym, boy, you're never gonna do that, right? Never. Yes. It's never gonna happen. It's or very rare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta be some kind of.
You ain't gonna feel like it.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot. But if you do it out of discipline, right? You'll reap the rewards later. And then sometimes the heart has to catch up. Man, I tell you, I can tell you time and time again, I obeyed the Lord from the place of the spirit, from the place of like, Lord, I know you're leading me this way. My heart and soul don't want to do this, but I know you're leading this way, so I'm going to go this way. And then my heart caught up later. And that's okay. That's all right. The Lord sees the obedience, and the word says that he blesses us in that place. When we surrender, do we not know the word? Take up our cross and follow him. So deny ourselves and be led by him. Well, you think denying yourself is a lot of fun?
Yeah, like you think it's going to be
you think
fun?
Picking up your cross is going to feel good?
I sure had a good time denying myself today.
Absolutely not. And but the Lord's blessing, so much better. It will feel good. It will. Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't in the beginning. And you have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with that discomfort. Right? We want all our trauma to be resolved. Everyone who hurt us to have, reached out and asked for forgiveness. Everything right in our life, and me feel okay about it beforehand. Meanwhile, the Lord told the lepers, he said, go and show yourselves to the Pharisees. And on the way, they began to be delivered and healed. And we know the story, right? It's really based on the gratitude and the worship factor. But the reality is that they were healed along the way. They obeyed when they weren't healed on the spot and then they went. They were healed on the way. And sometimes it's okay that our heart has to catch up. It's okay that there are certain maybe unresolved things that God, and that we trust that God will address them, that we will surrender them to the Lord, and we are surrendering them to the Lord, and that he will work it all out for good. Because the word in Ecclesiastes says, if you wait on the winds, you will never go. Right? And that's a farming example. If you wait on things to be perfect, you're never going to start that business. You're never going to release that book, that album. You're never going to walk in whatever destiny and purpose that God has for you. You're never going to marry the right person. Yeah. All the things, right? If you wait for your heart and your mind and everyone around you, let's not even talk about approval, right? If we wait on validation and approval, yeah, that makes sense. You should do that. No. Like, if you wait for all that, it's never going to happen.
That's so good. That's so good. And you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think about the fact that we need to examine the fruit of our lives. Like I was saying, I've seen so many people be discouraged by the length of the canyon that God is calling them to jump.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't make that jump.
Yeah.
And therefore they choose not to. Right? Or sometimes it's not even a canyon God is calling you to jump. Sometimes God is just calling you to be faithful to a path.
Right.
And you're like, I see down that path. There's a lot of craziness down that path. Or you go down it a little bit and you're like, oh no, this is way too hard. I can't do it. That's the point. The point is that you can't do it.
Without
the
him,
point is that you can't make it. The point is that your legs cannot make that jump. And he still calls you to do it. And then when you don't, you probably seen the same thing. I've seen so many people choose not to make the jump. And then immediately their lives just nosedive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it breaks me. And many times I hear them say, I don't know what happened. Where is God? God is still with you. That's the truth. That's the beauty of his faithfulness. He's still with you. But the human body, our spirits that has come alive to the beauty of God's spirit, cannot take the brokenness that comes from disobedience. It cannot.
Wow.
It cannot take it.
Yeah.
We can't. We think we can.
Yeah.
We think we can take our way and be happy with it.
Right.
But you're being disobedient, and then you're wondering why you're depressed. Then you're wondering why you're sad. Then you're wondering why nothing is working in your life. You might actually even be having some things working, but you're so focused, your heart is so focused on the fact that you're walking in disobedience, it feels like your life is in complete disarray. It feels like God is not there when he still is, because he loves you.
Right.
And he's just slowly calling you back. He's like you said earlier, it's not that hard to come back. You're not that far from him. You could come back right now.
It's not complicated. It's just costly, man. But can I tell you, this is so pivotal. Like, we have to be okay with, or we have to not be okay, rather, with mediocrity. As a believer, I remember this very clearly, being 16 years old and crying out to the Lord on my bed and saying, God, I don't want to be a mediocre believer. I don't want a mediocre life with you. Little did I know what I was asking for. I had no clue
facts.
at all what I was asking God for. But because like you said, I mean, God could be leading us in a certain direction. And if we don't go that way, it may not even be that we take this crazy nosedive, but that we just miss out on so much that God had for us. Yeah. And you'll never know.
You'll never know.
You will never know.
That's the scariest part for me.
What you missed out on. That is terrifying. That is terrifying. And even right now, my husband and I are in a very pivotal season in our marriage, in our ministry. We, and it's been years coming. The Lord asked us to do something, and I'm a believer.
I can hear it in your voice. Woo! I felt the weight of that. I don't even know what it is, and I was like, "Ooh!" I just felt something come into the space.
There's power, and I can't. Talk super in detail about it.
No. That's fine. I'm just saying that I felt it immediately.
It took us a while. I have to be honest. I'm a believer in. I heard this once, and it just never fell out of my brain. And it has informed my life. Delayed obedience is equivalent to disobedience.
Yeah.
And but this aspect, because I'm no longer one myself, I'm one with my husband, and this is a thing that we needed to do together. So the Lord was doing a work in him to get him okay with what the Lord was asking us to do.
Right.
And my husband is the type of guy, like, God, until you give me step 1, 2, 3, 4, like until you come down from heaven, and do it in a certain way, he won't move, which is honorable. He needs to know it's God to
right.
move. And the Lord tells me jump, and I'm like, okay, wait.
Yeah.
Him, he's a little more calculated, which, hey, compliment.
Yes.
Thank God, thank you, Jesus. So, but it took us a while to get to where God wanted us to do what he was asking us to do, to be released from the ministry that he grew up in. And even like we had certain conversations and all that. And it was a process of like 2 years between God telling us to leave and literally our last Sunday was just a couple Sundays ago.
No way. Wow. That's crazy.
That's a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
But, and can I tell you, it's such an Abraham moment for us because he didn't tell us what we're doing next. He didn't tell us what church we're going to be at. He didn't tell us none of that. He said, but I think it's pivotal because I think he wanted us to be obedient with that first part. He
likes doing that.
Oh yeah.
He's
he loves
like,
doing listen, that. when you're obedient with this part, I can show you the rest. You know what I mean? And so even leading up to like, I guess our last Sunday there or whatever, he has begun opening doors. Last week we were ministering at one place. The week before that we were ministering somewhere else. This opportunity and other opportunities that have come about to speak, to minister. And I don't know what God has for us, and I don't know what church we're going to be at. We've been visiting different places. And you know that's super for me. Like I was in Fuente for my life.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is a really weird place, you know, ministry wise to be in, like to not have like a home church. In my heart, Fuente is my home church.
Yeah.
But you know, to not have a like next Sunday, it's like, oh hey, where are we going to church?
Right.
Unless we're ministry somewhere, you know. So but it was a jump, you know, moment. Like Abraham, he was like, Lord, you know, or the Lord told him, go and I will show you, you know, along the way. Like, I'm going to lead you, go to the place that I will show you. And that was, it's been that for us this season. We've been married 5 years. We started going to his family's church when we got married. So 5 years in. And it has been, me personally, has been a lot. But now, it's bittersweet, you know, because you love the people and all that.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm very excited for what God is going to do next because I don't know. I have not a clue. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Because you have experience with it. Yeah, and that's an amazing place to be. I am fully confident. Not only that God has a plan, but
oh yeah.
Just in the gravity of that plan.
Yeah.
And what God is going to do with you guys. And so I commend you guys for, you know, one, being obedient.
Thank you.
You know, and, you know, I just pray for this next season that you guys would be an example to people to walk in obedience. And I hope that that's one of the biggest takeaways that everybody kind of gets from this episode, you know, that to walk in step with God's call for your life.
Yeah. For
every individual season. And also understanding that when we don't, it's not good for us.
It's the way of destruction. That's what the word says.
It literally destroys everything. It literally could destroy everything. I've seen lots of different things destroyed for people. Their own spirit, their hearts, their lives, their purpose, their marriages, their children. So many different things. It is so weighty.
Yeah.
The cost of disobedience is so weighty, and it's not like God is standing there.
And you don't know what you're paying.
Yeah, you don't know what you're paying. You may not
even know what you're paying.
You don't know what you're paying, and it's and I want to make special note of the fact that it's not like God is standing there waiting for you to be disobedient and is unleashing curses on you.
We do it to ourselves.
We do it to ourselves.
We do.
What God is doing is he's like, here, this is the way of blessing.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
This is the way that will lead to you being at peace.
Yeah.
Being, walking in step with me, being with me. This is the way to get there.
Yeah.
And we choose the other way.
I would rather do it scared and even in some ways unsure than not, and go my way and know I am sitting in a place of like disobedience. Because and the word talks about fear of the Lord. Like I fear not hearing him. I need to hear him. I need to hear him. I need to hear him to live. I need to hear him to be a mom. I need to hear him to be a wife. I need to hear him to steward the business opportunities he's given me right now. I need to hear him to steward my staff well and you know, raise up leaders. Yeah. I need to hear him to find the person who's going to take my place next. Every good leader is looking for the next person to take their place. Man, I need to hear him to be sitting here right now talking to you. Like, I have nothing to offer you. It's not him speaking to me right here. I got the cheat code right here, you know? You know the spy movies when they have their...
That's literally what it is.
I have to hear the Lord.
Goodness, yes.
If I'm not hearing the Lord, like that terrifies me. To not hear him is terrifying to me. And so I would rather do it and be scared, or even in some degree be unsure about what's to come, than risk not hearing him. And I've learned especially in the prophetic part of my walk with him, of him speaking to me, I've learned that when you're obedient the one time, the next time is a lot clearer, right? Because sometimes we struggle with that, like, Lord, is this you or is this me? You know what I mean? We struggle with that. Like, God, is this you? Or like, is this the taco that I ate last night? Like, I don't know if this is what this is.
That's so
and
true.
I remember early on being like, asking for stupid stuff. Like, to know like if this was him or not, like confirmation wise, like asking for dumb junk. Like I remember if he would give me a word for someone and I was like in a church service, I'll be like, God, if they kneel on the floor and raise their hand, then I know you want me to talk to them.
You are just like me.
Or
I would say like make their leg twitch to the left and them raise their hand. Okay, I know it's you now.
Yeah. Or the opposite. I would be like, God, if this is not you, stop me. Like, if this isn't you, have someone like come and start talking to them. Or like make them go to the bathroom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I've learned that and fearful, like not fearful, but just like, okay, I'd rather do it and err on the side of wanting to obey you than not do it out of fear.
Yep.
And I've learned that with every obedience step, the next one is a lot clearer.
Yes.
And the next one is a lot clearer. Where today, I know if he's talking to me or not. And I know, I told you, when you reached out, I knew I was to say yes to this opportunity because he already told me what this current season was going to be about. He spoke to me clearly. He speaks to me clearly about my assignment where I'm working right now and the business opportunity he's allowed me to steward, the staff that I have. And he's spoken to me clearly about what my assignment is here. That way, I know when my assignment is done.
That's so good.
I know when my time is done, I will know it and he will release me to the next thing. But I can't.
You don't overstay.
You don't overstay, bro. And we almost overstayed. And my husband talks about this. We go apple picking. And so the apples, a lot of times, you see the ones that are rotten on the floor. They were never picked at the right time. And so they just fell off and rotted on the floor. And so when you don't allow God to pluck you or pick you at the right time, all you're going to do is be fodder for the next season. You're just going to be that apple that rots on the floor and is fodder and fertilizer for the next, right? And you don't want your heart, your purpose, your family, your whatever it is to not be picked at the right time and rot. And so because I can hear the Lord, I will know when my time is up and when it will be time to transition to the next thing. But if I'm not hearing the Lord and I'm not willing to hear him, I will not only overstay my welcome, there will be so many other, not your welcome, but your time.
Yeah.
And I will bring into my life things that I don't need to deal with. I will be facing hardships and who knows what other kinds of trauma that I did not have to face had I listened to the Lord and moved at the right time or stayed. Because there's times we want to leave, we want to move, we want to whatever. And God is like, nope, I told you to stay right there. Thank you very much. Have a seat. Yep. Get comfortable. Take off your shoes. Just, have a seat,
And it's
so
always
he'll
a
tell
reason.
you.
He will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he will tell you. It's crazy because...
And peace is not the indicator. Sometimes we're like, okay, I have peace about this or that. I have peace about staying or I have peace about going. But Jesus did not have peace in the Garden of Gethsemane when it was time to give his life for us. He was bleeding from where sweat should have been coming out. There's zero peace, but it was the will of God for him to give his life on the cross for you and me to save us, to save and rescue us out of love for us. And so sometimes we're looking for peace to be the indicator of like, oh, I have peace about staying, or I have peace about leaving, or I have peace about this move or that move. And that's not always,
I can attest to that.
Indicator.
Joanna and I were going to make a huge decision going into 2024. We had peace about it. We had, we felt really good about it. We felt like everything kind of aligned. And then we felt led to submit it to the people who we are closest to. And we did. They started to pray about it. We had several conversations about it. We had a final conversation and they just shared with us all of their concerns because they had many concerns. And it wasn't even like, oh, we don't think that this is what God wants you to do. It was just like, here's our concern. What about this? Blah, blah, blah. And at the end, it wasn't even that. Right afterwards, God said, stay. And we were like, okay. And that decision produced so much fruit.
Wow.
So much fruit. And for me, it was a very sobering thing that there's sometimes where you think that God is leading you in a certain direction. And this is not a thing to make anybody afraid, because God was faithful until the very end. Let us go through that whole process. And it wasn't even like we weren't asking him because we were.
Yeah.
But he didn't say anything.
Yeah. And sometimes he doesn't.
Sometimes he doesn't.
To see, will you keep on pressing?
Yes.
Will you keep on pressing? Or it's like, I didn't hear from him. So, okay, whatever. So I'm going to do whatever I want, you know?
And force it.
Yeah.
But he's like, yo, I'm going to hit this buzzer beater real quick and just be like, nah. Don't do what you thought you were gonna do.
And in the last minute, will you, when you've invested so much, like you're ready to go, you packed your bags, you know what I mean? You bought the ticket, you know, you're ready to go. And if he tells you in that moment to change your plans, will you change your plans? Will you
do it?
Yeah, I think most of the big decisions in my life that led me to where I am today were, number one, peace was not a factor. Mm-hmm. God did not care if I was peaceful about it or not. And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. My heart had to catch up because I was not wise. I was unwise. And I didn't know what he had around the corner waiting for me.
Wow.
So I think number one, peace just was not a factor. And number two, it was just that simple, like clear, like, do you value, right? Like Moses, he's like, don't take me unless you're with me. Do you value my presence? Do you value my voice? More than you value what you're committed to, whatever that is in that moment. Very clearly, it was like, I'm leaving this behind. You know that picture that like floats around Instagram with like the little girl, the little teddy bear, and he has like a bigger one waiting for her. Yeah. Like, will you give him that? Whether you're at step one in the process or you're at the final step, will you give it to him?
That's so good.
And we're so unwilling to surrender our Isaac, you know? We're so unwilling to surrender our Isaac because it hurts. It's not easy. Nowhere does God promise in the word that following him will be easy, that it won't hurt, that we won't be persecuted. In fact, he guarantees those things. He says, because I was persecuted, you will be persecuted. You will go through highs and lows, just like you will go through in this life, period, with or without him. But with him, we have so much promise and security and certainty that it will all work out for good. If you're doing it on your own, you're still going to go through all those things, probably a little bit worse, and you're not going to have him to lean on and to lead you and to guide you and to give you wisdom. The word talks about how wisdom saves us from calamity. So there are times where if I would have went my way, catastrophe, like such catastrophe in my life, for sure.
Oh, man, Lauren, thank you so much for today.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing episode.
Such a gift.
No, you're the gift. Thank you so much. We got to have your husband on here.
Oh, for sure.
So we're going to hit him up and get him on here soon.
Yeah, man.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you guys enjoyed the episode. Make sure to check our Patreon page out if you want to get access to more exclusive content for your own personal growth or to just support what we're doing here with Valley of the Heroic. If you want to get in contact with Lauren, her Instagram is going to be down below and any other contact information that she may have. You guys have an amazing week. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.